You ever feel your heart stop beating while your body's still moving? Like time just spits in your face and dares you to breathe? That was me at 9:14 p.m. on a Thursday, scrolling Instagram with a half-eaten pizza in my lap and SportsCenter on mute. I wasn't looking for pain. It came looking for me. And it found me wearing sweatpants, surrounded by leftovers. Her post hit like a bullet straight between the eyes. Santorini sunsets with my real man. The ex? Just background noise. The caption burned hotter than the sunlight in that photo. She was draped over him like a silk scarf, laughing like she hadn't left a man back home who just paid off her student loans last month. Her dress was the same one I bought for our anniversary. The earrings, too. I recognized the damn necklace, my mother's. You know what really made my stomach turn? The hotel behind them. I'd seen those white railings and deep blue domes before, because I knew the owner, Brad Evans. We played baseball together in high school. I was best man at his wedding. My brain clicked like a lock finding its teeth. I didn't even hesitate. I called Brad. "Hey, man," I said, voice low and tight. "You got a woman named Madison Chase checked in? Blonde, green eyes, 5'9". Thinks she's smarter than everyone." Brad paused. "Checked in yesterday. Presidential suite. She's with some guy. Tattooed. Loud. Bit of AD. Kick them out." "You sure?" 15 minutes. "I'll Venmo you whatever you lost. I want them out on the damn street." Click. I dropped the phone, took a breath, and stared at the TV. Some athlete was celebrating. I wasn't. 5 minutes later, my phone vibrated. Madison. It was just a joke face with years of joy. "Come on, babe, don't overreact." A joke. A joke? I stared at that message like it came from Mars. I was still paying the credit card she maxed out at Saks last month. I'd been picking up double shifts, selling my watches, skipping weekends with the guys, all to build our future. And she called it background noise. I typed slow, one hand trembling. Me. My money wasn't. Send. Silence. It felt like every window in the house had shattered at once. Like the air changed. I stood up, looked around. The place suddenly didn't feel like mine. Or maybe I didn't feel like I belonged in it anymore. Photos on the walls mocked me. Her smile. Her eyes. Her handwriting on the fridge that said, "Pick up almond milk. Love you, red heart." A lie with every curve of the heart. I walked to the bedroom. Her jewelry box was open. I picked up the empty space where my mother's necklace used to sit. Guilt? Nah. I skipped guilt and went straight to fury. She didn't just cheat on me. She broadcasted my humiliation in HD to 800 followers and used a Greek sunset as her backdrop. She chose a man with neck tattoos and beer gut confidence over the guy who ironed her job interview outfits and rubbed her back during her cramps. And she thought I'd laugh it off like some sitcom punchline. My heart wasn't broken. It was scorched. I grabbed a trash bag. One of the big black ones. The kind you save for spring cleaning or dead weight. Then I started packing her things. Not carefully. Not with tears. With fire in my chest and clarity in my soul. Shoes. Gone. Makeup. Gone. That ugly scarf her mom gave her? I spit on it. Lingerie I never saw her wear for me? Into the bag. This wasn't sadness. This was rebirth. I wasn't her background noise. I was the man who held the mic the whole time. And she just gave me a reason to speak. The second the last drawer slammed shut, I tossed the bag by the door like it was toxic waste. And maybe it was. Everything in that trash bag had been part of a performance. A costume. A prop from a play called Loyal Wife that she never really acted in. Not for me. Anyway. My phone buzzed again. Madison. You didn't have to be cruel. That was between us. I didn't even use your name. Right. Because that made it better. Like cheating was acceptable as long as you didn't tag the husband you were betraying. She had the gall to hide behind privacy after making our collapse a public event. I didn't answer. Let her sit with it. The silence was mine now, and I was going to use it to think. No, not think. Plot. Because this wasn't just about a ruined marriage anymore. It was about respect, or rather, the absolute lack of it. The next morning, I walked into work with red eyes and the kind of quiet that made people step out of the way. I nodded at my assistant, ignored the emails, and sat in my office with the door shut. My law firm was my fortress. And for the first time in years, I was using it for personal matters. Divorce? Obvious. Assets? I was already 3 steps ahead. The prenup she once called paranoid was about to become the most romantic document I'd ever signed. I called my lawyer friend Nick, who owed me more than one favor. Need it clean, fast, and painful, I said. You okay? he asked. I laughed once, sharp and joyless. Not yet. By noon, Madison was blowing up my phone. Missed calls. Voice notes. Fake tears typed into bubble texts. I didn't open a single one. She even left a voicemail. Babe, you don't understand. It wasn't like that. He was just someone to travel with, someone exciting. I never meant to hurt you. I thought we were drifting apart anyway. Please talk to me. Drifting apart. That's what she called it. My devotion, my loyalty, my blind faith in a woman who clearly thought real men were ones who booked flashy hotels and posted gym mirror selfies with captions like, hers now flexed biceps red heart. When I got home that night, her key didn't work. I changed the locks and left a note on the door with 3 words. Check your email. Inside that email was everything. The divorce papers, documentation of her affair, screenshots of her post, and a full list of all the charges made to my credit card while she was finding herself. I itemized them like a grocery receipt. Every bottle of champagne, every spa treatment, every designer lie she wore while riding another man. By midnight, I heard her outside, banging on the door like some desperate stray kid who just realized the food bowl was empty. Daniel, open up. We need to talk. Please. I turned off the lights. Talk? Now she wanted to talk? Where was that need to communicate when she was moaning in a luxury suite while calling me background noise? I sat on the couch, staring into the dark, listening to her beg. I won't lie, part of me wanted to open the door. Not to forgive, but to see the look in her eyes when she realized the game was up. But I didn't, because I was done starring in a show where I wasn't even listed in the cast. Eventually, she left. I stood in the silence again. This time it didn't feel empty, it felt earned. And yet, something inside me twisted. Not regret. Not love. Something closer to disgust, at how long I had accepted so little. At how I let her walk on my pride in heels I paid for. The next few days were like peeling off a rotten skin. Everywhere I looked, there were reminders, the photos, the notes, the drawer full of fake memories. I burned them all. Not figuratively. Literally. I went to the backyard, lit the fire pit, and fed it every trace of her. The wind carried the ashes somewhere I'd never have to see again. I watched the flames in silence. It felt good. Not like healing, but like vengeance. And sometimes that's enough for a start. 3 days later, I was at a bar with my old college friend, Tyler. We hadn't seen each other in over a year, but when he heard the news, he showed up like a brother should, with whiskey and silence. After the second drink, I told him everything. From the Instagram post to the hotel call. From her voicemail to the fire pit. He didn't say much. Just shook his head slowly. Then he asked, "Do you think she ever really loved you?" I stared into my glass. That question had been sitting in the back of my mind, breathing heavily like a beast I didn't want to face. I thought about the way she used to kiss my cheek in the morning. The way she'd call me my rock when she needed something. The way she cried when I bought her that car. All of it framed and staged. Like a play where I was the producer, director, and the poor idiot clapping in the front row. She loved being loved, I said finally. I just happened to be the guy doing it. Tyler raised his glass. To the end of her show. We clinked, and it felt like a funeral toast. That night, I got another text from her. Not begging this time, threatening. If you think you can ruin my life without consequences, you're wrong. People make mistakes. But you? You're trying to destroy me. No apology. No ownership. Just pure deflection. That's when I knew I wasn't dealing with a woman who slipped. I was dealing with someone who never saw me as a person, just as a foundation she could stand on until something taller came along. I blocked her number. Permanently. But the storm wasn't over. Because the next day, my office receptionist stopped me at the door. "She's here," she whispered. I didn't need to ask who. There she was, sitting on the lobby couch like it was her throne. Dressed in a beige trench coat, oversized sunglasses, and fake tears. She stood up fast when she saw me. "Daniel, please." I raised a hand. "You don't get to say my name anymore." The room went still. Even the interns looked up from their screens. She leaned closer, voice lowered. "Can we just talk?" 5 minutes. I looked her up and down. She wasn't crying. Her mascara was perfect. Her hair too. This was a performance. Always a performance. But fine, let her say her lines. I nodded and led her into a conference room. Shut the door. Sat down across from her like she was a hostile witness. Because she was. She started slow. It didn't mean anything. He was just different. I was bored. "You were always working." And he listened. I didn't interrupt. I let her dig her own grave with every word. "It wasn't about love," she continued. I just, I don't know. I felt invisible. And he made me feel wanted. By climbing on top of you in a hotel room I paid for? She flinched. Don't be cruel. You posted it online, Madison. You wanted the world to know. You made sure I saw it. I didn't mean for it to blow up like that. You captioned it, "My real man is beside me." Silence. I leaned forward. Tell me something. When you looked into that camera, did you even think of me? Or was I already deleted in your mind? She looked down, then up, then nothing. I stood. We're done. You can keep your excuses, your lies, and whatever STD that Jim Rat gave you. I'm keeping my house, my peace, and my name. I walked out, left her there. Didn't look back, because I knew she wasn't crying. She was calculating. By the time I reached my desk, I felt lighter. Not happy, not yet, but clean. Like I'd finally stepped out of the mud. Later that evening, I got a message from Brad, the hotel owner. She tried to book again, under a fake name. We banned her. I laughed. For real this time. Because she was still chasing that high. Still performing for an audience that didn't clap anymore. And I was done watching. A week passed. Silence became a friend I never appreciated before. No door slamming at midnight. No fake giggles on speakerphone pretending to be just Stacy from work. No perfume-clouded lies. Just me, a clean space, and the sound of my own thoughts, finally uninterrupted. And then came the letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. A handwritten letter, like we were in the 1800s and she was a heartbroken widow instead of a modern-day traitor. I sat with it in my hand for a long time. Just her handwriting on the envelope already made my stomach twist. She always wrote in all caps, like everything she said was more important than it really was. I opened it. Daniel. I know I've made mistakes, but I don't believe this is how our story ends. We had too much good to throw it away over one bad decision. You were always my safe place. Maybe I ran because I didn't feel like I deserved it anymore. Maybe I wanted chaos because peace scared me. I don't know, but I do know I miss you. I miss us. I'd give anything to go back. The rest was a mix of poetry, regret, and what I can only describe as manipulative nostalgia. She didn't say his name once. Not the guy she posted with. Not the one who made her feel wanted. Just skipped over him like he was a footnote in a story she was now trying to rewrite. I folded the letter and threw it in the drawer without reading the last paragraph. I didn't need to. I knew how it ended, the same way all her excuses did. With her trying to be the victim of a mess she created. And still, it hurt. You don't stop loving someone overnight. You just learn to see the poison in the perfume. I wasn't over her, but I was over us. 2 days later, I got a call from Stacy, the real one. The friend from work Madison always blamed her late nights on. She wanted to meet. I hesitated, but curiosity won. We sat in a small cafe, both of us nursing coffees like they were weapons. I don't want to get in the middle, Stacy began. But I think you should know. She's been telling people you cheated first. I blinked. What? She told our entire office that you had someone on the side. Said she found messages on your laptop. My laugh was so sharp, the guy at the next table looked over. Messages? I barely had time to text my barber. She really said that. Yeah. And that you've always had anger issues. That you were controlling. I rubbed my jaw. So now I'm the abuser? Stacy leaned forward. I didn't believe it. None of us did. You were the only one who ever came to company events. You made her lunches. You picked her up during those awful rainstorms. I remember you holding her heels in the parking lot. I looked at her, eyes narrowing. Why are you telling me this now? She hesitated, then pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. Madison, with the same guy, at a new hotel. Same post format. New caption. Lesson learned. Upgrade your partner. Upgrade your life. The fire came back instantly. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was mockery. Like she thought this was a game, and I was just the ex she could humiliate whenever her engagement got boring. Let her have him, I said, rising. She deserves every piece of that downgrade. Before I left, Stacy put a hand on my arm. You ever want to talk, like for real? I'm around. I nodded but didn't promise anything. My trust had been burned so bad, even kindness made me flinch. That night, I went home and finally did what I'd been avoiding. I walked into the closet, pulled down the dusty storage box from the top shelf, and opened it. Our wedding album. One by one, I tore out each photo. Not in rage. With precision. Like I was removing a tumor from my history. Each image was a lie. Every smile a mask. Every kiss a PR stunt. When I reached the last photo, her holding my face, Beaming like she won the lottery, I paused. Then I whispered, "You did. Until you threw the ticket in the fire. I burned the whole album. And this time, I didn't watch the flames. I just walked away." 3 weeks after the last ember of our photo album turned to ash, I got a call from Madison's sister, Emily. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity's a dangerous thing, and I was done running from fire. "Hey," she said. Her voice was tight, hesitant. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I thought you should know what's going on." I didn't say anything. "She's not doing well." I almost laughed. Not because I didn't believe it, but because not doing well for Madison probably meant the hotel didn't have 1,000 thread count sheets and her new boy toy didn't know how to boil pasta. "She's spiraling," Emily continued. "Said the new guy isn't who she thought. He's already moved on. Took some other girl to Ibiza." There it was, the collapse. Not because of guilt. Not because she missed me. Because the guy she risked it all for tossed her like old gum. She lost everything, Emily said. The apartment lease. Her job, found out about the affair through social media. Clients didn't want to work with her anymore. Even Mom won't return her calls. I stayed silent. "You don't have to say anything," she added. "I just thought you'd want to know she's not winning." I hung up. Not because I was angry. Because I didn't care. It shocked me too. I sat there for 10 whole minutes after the call. Just numb. No satisfaction. No vengeance. Nothing. That was the moment I realized I'd healed further than I thought. Her pain didn't taste sweet. It didn't even register. It was just static. That weekend, I ran into someone unexpected, her father, Bill Chase. The man who once toasted our marriage with a glass of bourbon and told me, "You've got yourself a treasure, son." We bumped into each other at the hardware store. I was picking up a new door lock set, the final touch on rebuilding my space. He looked tired. Older. Like the mess his daughter made had wrinkled his pride. "Daniel," he said, with a stiff nod. "Bill." He glanced at the box in my hand. "New locks. New life." He grimaced. "She told us some things. A lot of things." I didn't want to believe it at first. "You shouldn't have," I said. "Because most of it was a lie. I know now." Silence stretched between us, heavy like wet wool. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "For everything. You didn't cheat on me. But I raised someone who did." I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded and walked away. That night, I lay in bed, my bed, staring at the ceiling. Everything was quiet. And not the lonely kind of quiet. The peaceful kind. My phone buzzed again. A new number. But I knew the style. She always used too many ellipses. "I miss your voice. I miss your silence too. I miss the way you looked at me like I was everything. Can we meet?" No apology. No mention of what she did. Just fishing hooks dipped in nostalgia, dragging through my memory like they still had a chance of catching something. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. Then I opened my notes app and started writing. Not to her. Not to anyone. Just to myself. A single line. Peace isn't something you find. It's what's left when you stop letting liars speak. I slept well that night. Like, really slept. No dreams. No twisting. No sudden jolts at 3 a.m. Just air. Sheets. Silence. Freedom. 2 months later, I was at a friend's housewarming party. One of those clean, minimal lofts with concrete walls and soft jazz in the background. I wasn't planning on staying long, just dropping by to show face, have a drink, and dip out before the awkward couple started slow dancing like they were auditioning for a perfume commercial. And then I saw her. Not Madison, but a woman with dark curls, glasses she didn't seem to care about fixing, and a laugh so real it pulled my eyes from across the room like a rope. Her name was Julia. We talked over gin and tonics by the snack table. I told her I'd been through a rough year. She didn't ask for details, didn't pry. Just said, "That makes 2 of us," and offered me half her brownie. She wasn't flashy. Wasn't trying to be impressive. And that somehow was more impressive than anything I'd seen in a long time. We met again a week later. And then again. No games. No tests. No performative affection. Just warmth. And space. I didn't tell her everything right away. The scars. The betrayal. The hotel. The Instagram post that broke me more than her lies ever could. But slowly, in pieces, it came out. She didn't flinch. Didn't pity me. Just listened. And then said, "That sounds like hell. But you're not there anymore." It was the first time someone framed my story with an exit. Not a trap. Not a wound. An ending. One afternoon, as we walked by the river, she stopped and asked, "Would you ever trust again?" I stared out at the water, rippling and dirty, but somehow calming. I already am, I said. She smiled. Not the kind that tries to sell you something. The kind that says, I see you, and I'm not going anywhere. A few days later, I got a message through a mutual friend. Madison had left the country. Something about a yoga retreat in Bali and finding herself. I didn't even blink. I didn't care. And that's what shocked me most. I didn't care. The woman who shattered me. The woman who posted my heartbreak in real time for likes. The woman who once said I was her safe place was now just a lesson. Not a curse. Not a ghost. Just a page turned. I still had moments. Triggers. A scent that reminded me of her perfume. A song that came on randomly while I was driving. A stupid commercial with a couple kissing in the rain. But they passed. Like clouds. Now, when I walk into my house, I don't wonder where she is or who she's texting. I don't check the bed for signs she didn't sleep there. I don't inspect her tone for lies. Because she's not part of my air anymore. Julia once told me, people don't break you. They reveal what you were giving away for free. She was right. I gave Madison trust, time, loyalty, faith. And she spent it like casino chips on a man who wouldn't even hold her hand in public now. Let her live with that. As for me, I learned to love silence. I learned to love slow conversations. Sunday mornings with coffee instead of damage control. I stopped surviving. I started living. And I never looked back. The next spring, I visited my parents for the first time in a while. Dad was out in the garage, fiddling with something under the hood of his truck like always. He looked up, wiped his hands on an old rag, and smiled that quiet, knowing smile he always gave when words weren't necessary. You look better, he said simply. I feel better. He nodded. Still got that edge in your eyes, though. Took me years to get rid of mine. I leaned against the workbench beside him. The smell of motor oil and sawdust was grounding, like being wrapped in something that never lied. She broke you, huh? He asked. No. She exposed me, I said. Exposed the fact that I kept pouring into someone who never even brought a glass. He chuckled. Damn. That's good. We stood in silence for a minute before he handed me a wrench. Want to help? So I did. We didn't talk about Madison after that. Just gears, timing belts, and whether the Yankees had a shot this season. Sometimes healing comes in weird places, like a greasy garage or a shared beer between long silences. A few weeks later, Julia invited me to meet her family. I won't lie, I hesitated. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't sure I could ever be that version of me again. The guy who shows up with flowers and smiles like he doesn't know what betrayal tastes like. But she looked at me with those eyes, calm, unafraid, patient, and I said yes. Her dad was polite. Her mom was sweet in a slightly interrogating way. Her younger brother kept trying to test my handshake. But through it all, Julia held my hand under the table. Steady. Strong. Later that night, as we lay on her couch watching a movie neither of us were really paying attention to, she turned to me and whispered, You know you're allowed to feel happy now, right? And for the first time since that hotel post, I believed her. I didn't have to prove anything anymore. Not to Madison. Not to her family. Not to the world that saw me as a meme for a few weeks after her little social media stunt. I survived being turned into someone's punchline. And now? Now I was the damn author. It's strange, really, how something that once felt like the end of your world eventually becomes a footnote in your story. An ugly paragraph you don't tear out, but no longer reread. I still keep that old wedding ring in a drawer. Not out of sentiment. Out of remembrance. A silent reminder of what I will never tolerate again. What I will never be again. Some nights, I take it out, hold it for a second, and smile. Not because it meant anything, but because I'm still here. Still standing. Still whole. And that, after everything, is the real victory. The man she thought was background noise? He became the voice in his own story. And he never needed her applause. A year to the day since she posted that photo, I stood on a hill outside the city. Not for any dramatic reason, just a quiet place with a view I'd always liked. You could see the skyline, the river cutting through the buildings, the slow pulse of life from a safe distance. I pulled out my phone and opened the picture. Her picture. There she was, smiling like she just conquered the world. Leaning into a man whose name I never even bothered to learn. Her eyes held that look, not love, not joy, but victory. The kind of smug victory people wear when they think they've hurt someone too broken to fight back. I stared at it for a while. Not with pain. Not even with anger. Just curiosity. I wondered if she still remembered the moment she posted it. If she thought back on the caption, "My real man is beside me." The ex was just background noise. And cringed. Or if she still believed it. And then, without ceremony, I deleted it. No fanfare. No fire. Just gone. That chapter didn't deserve a flame. It deserved silence. I turned and walked back down the hill, where Julia was waiting in the car. She rolled down the window and smirked, holding up 2 coffees like a trophy. "You look like you just made peace with the universe," she said. Something like that. As I got in the car, my phone buzzed once more. A new account. No profile picture. No name. "You were the only one who ever truly loved me." I see that now. But it's too late, isn't it? I didn't reply. I didn't even block it. I let it sit there, unread. Because some ghosts are best left talking to the wind. We drove off, windows down, the smell of spring coming in with the breeze. And I realized something important. Forgiveness doesn't always need an audience. Closure doesn't come with an apology. Sometimes, moving on means leaving the door open. Not so they can walk back in, but so you can walk the hell out. I had, and I wasn't looking back. Her boss kissed her in the car. Not a kiss on the cheek. Not something you could mistake as polite. I watched from across the street, my iced coffee turning warm in my hand, as my wife leaned in and let him claim her lips like they belonged to him. Then came the whisper. I couldn't hear it too far, but I saw her lips form the words. My phone picked up the audio from the mic I had hidden in her purse 2 weeks ago. "This alpha acts," she purred. "Mine only talks." I froze. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I walked back to my car, started the engine, and stared at the dashboard like it could give me a reason not to explode. My mind was fire, and my chest felt like someone had kicked a hole through it. Her name was Jessica. We'd been married 8 years. She used to light up when I entered a room. Now, she barely noticed when I left. Her boss? Derek Matthews. Sleazy smile. Always too smooth, too polished. A guy who never let go of his high school quarterback ego. I met him once at a company party. He looked me up and down like I was a janitor crashing a black tie event. He didn't know I owned 28% of the company. Well, I used to. After I saw the kiss, I made 3 phone calls. My lawyer, my broker, and my partner in Hong Kong. By 4 p.m., I had bought 51% of the shares. By 6 p.m., I was the majority owner. The next morning, I walked into the building with a black suit, a red tie, and enough fire in my veins to ignite the whole damn office. Jessica was already there, sipping her almond milk latte, laughing at something Derek had whispered in her ear. They didn't see me at first. I stood at the back of the boardroom and let them finish their little comedy routine. She touched his arm. He brushed hair from her face. Her wedding ring caught the light like a blade. "Good morning," I said. Dead silence. I walked to the head of the table, pulled out a chair, and Saturday, effective immediately, I said, "Derek Matthews, you're terminated for inappropriate conduct with an employee." And Jessica, I looked at her, watched her confidence collapse like a burning building. "You're fired for violating company policy and breaching spousal trust." She laughed. Actually laughed. "You can't fire me," she said. "You don't have that kind of." "I own the company," I said calmly. "You ever watch a woman realize she gambled everything and lost it all in a single breath?" Jessica's lips parted like she was going to protest. Then she saw the paperwork. The signatures. The lawyer in the corner nodding. She stood up fast, like the room was on fire. "You're insane, Ethan. This is personal revenge. It's illegal. You won't get away with this." I smiled. "I already have." She stormed out. Derek followed her like a scolded mutt. They didn't even say goodbye. Back at home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Her wine glass was still on the table from the night before. I picked it up, turned it in my hands, saw the red stain of lipstick that didn't belong to a woman who respected her marriage. I sat on the couch. My body was trembling. Not with rage. Not anymore. With grief. This woman, the one who used to kiss me like the world was ending, she'd whispered about another man being alpha. She didn't know me, but she would. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Tomorrow, I'd start the process of removing her name from every legal document she ever touched. I'd pull her car from the lease, her name from the mortgage, her access from every account. She lost her lover, her salary, and her name, all in one day. That's how a real alpha acts. And tomorrow, I'd teach her what regret really feels like. It didn't start with a kiss. It started with a dress. One I'd never seen before, tight, black, expensive. Jessica wore it on a random Tuesday, claiming it was just a little boost of confidence for a big meeting. The dress clung to her in a way that was meant to be admired, but not by me. Not anymore. She stopped wearing the necklace I gave her on our anniversary. Started wearing heels again, even though she used to complain they hurt her feet. She'd stay late at work more often. Deadlines, she'd say with a yawn, tossing her bag by the door, barely making eye contact. But what really did it wasn't her lies. It was the way she stopped lying well. Once, I asked her where she'd been. She blinked too many times, shrugged too quickly. Dinner with Tracy. You know Tracy. Except I did know Tracy. And I knew she was in Chicago visiting her sister that week. Still, I said nothing. That's the thing about suspicion, it doesn't shout. It whispers. And then it collects receipts. So I started watching. Tracking. I'm not proud of it, but I needed the truth. I placed a small mic in her purse, linked it to my phone. I checked her location when she said she'd be home late. She was always in the same office complex. Always the same time. And every night, when she got home, she'd take a long shower. A smug silence wrapped around her like perfume. There was a Saturday, she said she had a work brunch. I followed her. Sat in my car across from the restaurant. Watched her walk in alone. But she didn't stay alone for long. Derek showed up. They didn't sit at a table. They went upstairs to the private lounge. An hour later, they came down laughing. Her hand grazed his back. His fingers brushed her waist. I clenched the steering wheel. I could have walked in. Could have made a scene. But I wasn't going to shout in a restaurant like some heartbroken fool. I wanted proof. That's when I ordered the PI. Within days, I had pictures. Restaurant. Office. Even one of them walking into a hotel. Still, I didn't say a word. I waited. Let her dig the grave herself. The morning before the kiss, she stood in front of the mirror curling her hair. I sat behind her on the bed, pretending to scroll my phone. You look different, I said. She smiled at her reflection, not at me. It's the curls, she said. It wasn't. It was the glow. The dangerous kind. The one that says, I belong to someone else now. When she left, I didn't follow. I already had the route. Already had the destination. I waited across the street from Derek's car, sipping that damn iced coffee and trying not to shatter the cup in my hand. Then I saw it. The kiss. The whisper. This alpha acts. Mine only talks. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. She didn't just cheat. She mocked me. To him. I didn't go home that night. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I planned. People think heartbreak makes you weak. No. Real heartbreak? It makes you strategic. And I was about to become the most dangerous version of myself. One she'd never see coming. She came home that night like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just let her boss grope her like a toy in the parking lot. Like she hadn't whispered something so venomous it lodged in my chest and stayed there, rotting everything around it. Jessica tossed her purse on the counter, kicked off her heels, and exhaled like her day had just been exhausting. I stayed seated at the dining table, fingers laced together, watching her move through the kitchen like this was still her kingdom. You hungry? She asked, not looking at me. I could heat up the lasagna. I didn't answer. She turned. You okay? I nodded slowly. Yeah, just thinking about work. She smirked. That's a first. That was her thing lately. Every sentence had a knife hidden in it. Some passive-aggressive jab. She thought I was weak. Quiet. That I didn't see the signs or didn't have the guts to call her out. She forgot who I used to be. Jessica, I said finally, keeping my voice calm. Who's the alpha now? She paused mid-pour, red wine splashing over the rim. What? I stood, walked to the living room, and picked up the file I had left on the couch. Dropped it in front of her with a thud. Dozens of printed photos spilled out. Her and Derek, restaurants, hotels, that rooftop bar she said she hated. Her smile in every frame was radiant. Radiant in a way I hadn't seen in years. She stared at them for a long moment, then laughed. That cold, dismissive, high-pitched laugh that she used when she thought she had the upper hand. You really hired a PI, she said. God, that's pathetic. I didn't say anything. Just stood there, waiting, letting the silence twist the air. She folded her arms. Look, Ethan, things have been off between us for a while. You've been distant, always working, always tired. I needed. Stop, I said sharply. Don't give me the tired speech. Don't pretend this is some mutual drift. You weren't just trying to find yourself, Jess. You were spreading yourself. Her face went red. You don't get to judge me. You haven't touched me in months. And now I know why, I said, stepping closer. Because I could feel it. The emptiness. The lie in every smile. You were already his. She didn't apologize. Of course not. Jessica had buried her shame years ago under layers of sarcasm and pride. Instead, she rolled her eyes. Derek is confident. He doesn't second-guess himself every damn minute. He makes decisions. He acts. I nodded slowly. So you think he's an alpha? She lifted her chin. I know he is. I smiled. He was. Her brow furrowed. What the hell does that mean? I bought the company, I said. I own it now. As of this morning, Derek's unemployed. And so are you. Silence. You could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. Her lips parted, then closed. She blinked fast, like her brain was buffering. She wasn't used to losing. Then she exploded. You vindictive little man, she hissed. You think firing us makes you strong? This is abuse, Ethan. I'll sue you. I'll ruin you. I took a step closer, met her glare with a stare made of stone. No, Jessica. You ruined yourself. I just cut the cord. She slapped me. It wasn't hard. It wasn't unexpected. It was desperate. And it was the last thing she'd ever do to me with that ring on her finger. I turned, walked away, and went upstairs without another word. She screamed after me, throwing something glass. It shattered against the wall, but I didn't flinch. I had already shattered inside. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. Sleep was too gentle, too forgiving. I wasn't ready for dreams, just silence. The kind of silence that comes after a bomb goes off. Downstairs, Jessica was pacing. I heard the soft stomp of her bare feet on the hardwood floor. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was scheming, no doubt trying to figure out how to spin it all in her favor. But it was too late. By morning, I had already locked her out of all shared accounts. The lawyer was looped in. I left divorce papers on the kitchen counter next to a single post-it note. I loved you until you spit on it. I expected rage. Drama. But what I got was worse, silence. When I came down to grab my keys, Jessica was sitting at the table, legs crossed, sipping coffee like this was just another day in paradise. She looked up at me and smiled. You're not the man I married. You're right, I said. That man thought you were worth something. She tilted her head, eyes gleaming like a snake ready to strike. You think this makes you strong? Cold? Untouchable? You're just a bitter little boy with money. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The facts were on my side, and she was bleeding status now. Her phone buzzed, probably Derek. I watched her glance at it, then quickly flip it over. Interesting. You really think this is the end? She asked, a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. I know your habits, Ethan. I know your fears. I could bury you. I stepped closer, calm, but ice cold inside. You don't even know who you are anymore. You're just a pretty face that someone else made valuable. And now you're nothing. I walked past her, left the house, and didn't look back. That day at the office was different. Whispers followed me like shadows. People knew something had gone down, they just didn't know how deep the cut was. I called an emergency board meeting, sat at the head of the table, and addressed the room with a stillness I hadn't felt in weeks. Effective immediately, I began. We will be conducting a full HR audit. Every department, every manager. I want transparency. I want accountability. And I want loyalty. People nodded. Some looked scared. Good. They should be. Later, in my office, I opened the drawer where I kept a photo of me and Jessica on our wedding day. I stared at it for a while. Her smile. My arm around her. A perfect life frozen in time. Then I shredded it, piece by piece. That night, she wasn't home. No note. No call. Just absence. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't care. I sat on the balcony, a glass of whiskey in hand, and watched the city lights pulse in the distance. I remembered the way she used to laugh at my jokes. The way she clung to me after nightmares. The way she once whispered, "You're my home." None of it mattered now. She'd sold it all for a thrill, for ego, for some cheap validation from a man who couldn't even hold his job for 24 hours. That was the emotional part. Now came the cold part. She took a match to my life. I was going to burn her castle down with it. 3 days. That's how long she lasted in silence. 3 days without the house, without her job, without the daily illusion that she was still in control. On the 4th morning, she showed up, banged on the door like a cop with a warrant. I opened it slowly, coffee in hand, towel around my neck, sweat still drying from a 5-mile run. Her eyes were red, but dry. Hair tied up, makeup barely there. This wasn't the seductive Jessica that used to twist every argument into a performance. This was the stripped-down version, the one with no cards left to play. We need to talk, she said. I stepped aside without a word. She walked in like it still belonged to her, glancing around at the furniture like it might speak for her. I talked to HR, she started. They said there was no severance, that the firing was immediate and final. That's correct, I said, sitting on the arm of the couch. You breached multiple policies. You used your authority to conceal a personal relationship. On company time. In company spaces. You're enjoying this, she snapped. I leaned forward slightly. You know what I would have enjoyed? Loyalty. She paced in front of me like a caged animal. I gave you years of my life. I supported you when no one else did. I stood by you when the startup failed twice. And I never forgot that, I replied quietly. But none of that justifies tearing down what we built for a cheap thrill in a parking lot. Her jaw tightened. It wasn't cheap. No, I said. It was expensive. And now you're paying for it. She laughed bitterly, brushing hair out of her face. You really think people are going to praise you for this? For humiliating your wife? For firing a man because you couldn't handle the truth? I didn't fire him because I couldn't handle the truth, I said, rising to my feet. I fired him because he was unprofessional. Because he abused his position. Because he let his zipper make decisions instead of his brain. And you? You were collateral damage. She blinked. Hard. Like I just punched her in the chest. I walked over to the drawer and pulled out an envelope. Thick. Heavy. These are the divorce documents, I said, placing it on the table. Inside is a financial agreement that's more than fair, considering everything. If you want to fight it, be my guest. But know this, I have everything. Photos, recordings, emails. I don't lose, Jessica. She looked at the envelope like it might explode. I loved you, I added, voice low. But you chose chaos. And now you're drowning in it. She picked up the envelope and walked toward the door. Before stepping out, she turned, eyes sharp but glassy. You'll regret this, she whispered. I tilted my head. No. I regret not seeing who you really were sooner. She left, and that was the last time she stepped into my house. The next few days were a blur of signatures, phone calls, asset transfers. I had the locks changed, her name removed from every utility, every account, every car title. I hired a PR team to manage the office rumors. Told them to keep it clean, professional. No scandal. No revenge fantasy. She disappeared from the company website like a deleted typo. Just a shadow. A name no one dared mention. And Derek? He tried to sue. Lasted a week before his own texts were leaked. I didn't leak them, but I didn't stop them either. Karma's a mirror. You break it, you bleed. There's a strange quiet that follows destruction. Not peace. Not relief. Just stillness. The kind of stillness where you sit in a house that echoes, wondering how much of your life was real, and how much was just good lighting on a bad movie. After Jessica left, after the divorce papers were signed, stamped, and fed into the system like a dead file, I sat on the floor of my bedroom and looked at the empty side of the closet. Hangers dangled like ribs. Her perfume still lingered in the air, faint but cruel. I could have boxed everything. Burned it. Posted the ashes on Instagram. But I didn't. I kept one thing. A photo. Not of us. Just her. Standing on a bridge in Paris, smiling at the wind. Before the lies. Before the alpha whispers. Before the betrayal. I stared at it for a full hour. Then I folded it in half and slid it behind the mirror. Not gone. Just exiled. Work became my oxygen. The office was colder now. People didn't know whether to congratulate me or walk on eggshells. I preferred the eggshells. I turned my attention to everything I had ignored during the marriage. My health. My mind. My friends who I hadn't seen in years because Jessica hated them for reminding her of the old version of me. I called Ryan first, my college roommate, the guy who stood next to me at the altar and faded into the background shortly after. We met at a dive bar. No pretense. Just beer and brutal honesty. Jesus, man, he said after hearing the short version. She really was that cold? She was worse, I said. But I let it happen. I let myself become so small she had to cheat just to feel something. He didn't pity me. Didn't lecture me. He just raised a glass. To burning it all down, he said. To rebuilding better, I replied. And that night, for the first time in months, I laughed. Not because the pain was gone. Because I realized I had survived it. Jessica tried to reach out twice. Hey text. Then a longer one. I know you hate me, but I miss the way you looked at me when we danced in the kitchen. I didn't answer. She didn't deserve my silence, but she sure as hell didn't deserve my voice. Weeks passed. I started sleeping better. Started running more. Read books I hadn't touched since before the wedding. One morning, while checking into a hotel for a business summit, I caught my reflection in the lobby mirror. I looked like a man again, not the ghost she left behind. At the summit, I spoke about resilience and leadership, how setbacks reveal the core of a person. People clapped, shook my hand. Some whispered that they heard what happened and admired how I handled it. But it wasn't about admiration. It was about freedom, the kind that doesn't come from revenge. The kind that comes when you stop waiting for someone to apologize and start living like they never existed. Jessica was a chapter. A long, beautiful, poisonous chapter. And I had finally turned the page. It was a Thursday. Rain tapping against the windows like the universe trying to whisper a warning. That's when she came back. Jessica didn't knock this time. She buzzed at the gate. I was upstairs, tying my tie for a board meeting, when I saw her name light up on the screen. Jessica Gate. She hadn't changed the contact name. I hadn't either. Not out of nostalgia. Just as a reminder. I didn't answer. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed again, this time. A text. I just want 5 minutes. Please. I don't know what made me press the button. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the part of me that still wanted to see how far she'd fallen. She walked through the front door like a stranger in a museum. No bags. No umbrella. Just soaked hair, smeared makeup, and a designer coat she probably couldn't afford anymore. Her eyes scanned the place like she expected something to have changed. It hadn't. But I had. You look healthy, she said. I raised an eyebrow. You look like you've been losing sleep. She gave a hollow laugh and nodded. I have. I didn't invite her to sit, but she did anyway. Crossed her legs, hands clasped in her lap like she was in therapy. I'm not here to ask for anything, she started. Good. I cut her off. Because there's nothing left. She flinched. But she pushed through. I just need you to know. Derek meant nothing. It wasn't love. It wasn't even good. I leaned against the wall, arms folded. Then why do it? She hesitated. Because I felt invisible. Because I needed to feel like someone wanted me. You stopped looking at me like I mattered. And instead of telling me that, I said coldly, you opened your legs for someone who looked at everyone like that. Her face cracked. Not an anger regret. Real, raw, painful regret. The kind that doesn't fix anything. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. I just wanted to say I'm sorry before it's too late. Too late for what? I asked. She pulled something from her purse. A letter. Handwritten. Folded neatly. I got a job in Seattle, she said. New start. New everything. I leave Sunday. Congratulations, I said, unmoved. I thought maybe we could leave things less broken than they are. I took the letter, but didn't read it. Not then. Just held it. I loved you, she said, standing slowly. Even when I was destroying us. That's the part that makes me sick. I walked her to the door. And before she left, she turned back and looked at me, really looked. You were the real alpha, she said. I just didn't see it until I lost everything. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She stepped outside. The door closed behind her like a vault. I stared at the letter in my hand for a long time. Then I dropped it into the fireplace. Watched the edges curl. The ink melt. Some doors are meant to stay shut. Some ghosts don't deserve to be kept. She wanted a final word. A final moment. But in the end, silence said everything. 2 months later, I stood at the edge of the beach, wind slicing through my shirt, watching the waves slam into the shore like they had something to prove. The sand was cold. The sky a dull gray. But inside, for the first time in years, I felt quiet. Not empty, just still. Jessica was gone. Not just from the house. Not just from the company. But from my system. It didn't happen all at once. Healing's never a straight line. Some mornings, I'd wake up expecting to hear her hum in the kitchen, only to remember she was 5 states away. Other days, I'd pass someone in the grocery store wearing her perfume and nearly choke. But those moments got weaker. She got smaller. And I got stronger. There's something about betrayal that either breaks you or rebuilds you. I let it do both. First, it shattered the man I used to be, the one who stayed quiet, who excused red flags, who believed love meant loyalty by default. Then it forged someone else. Someone who doesn't tolerate emotional charity. Someone who doesn't beg to be chosen. Someone who understands that real strength isn't dominance, it's restraint. I didn't retaliate with scandal. I didn't leak the tapes, the emails, the hotel bills. I could have, but I didn't. Because her greatest punishment wasn't public shame. It was knowing I moved on. Without her. I sold the house 3 weeks after she left. Too many memories in the walls. Too many ghosts in the closets. Bought a loft in the city. Minimalist. Open. Clean. It didn't echo when I walked. I filled it with things that made me feel new. New books, new clothes, new rules. One rule stood above the rest. Never let someone in who needs to be fixed. I didn't need a project. I didn't want potential. I wanted presence. Ryan introduced me to someone, Claire. She was nothing like Jessica. She didn't try to impress me, didn't flatter, didn't pretend. She listened. She asked questions that didn't make me feel interrogated. And when I told her the story, not all the ugly details, just the bones of it, she didn't gasp or lean in like it was juicy gossip. She just said, "I'm glad you got out." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "That's awful." Just, "I'm glad." That hit deeper than anything. We've had 3 dates. No pressure. No expectations. Just easy silence and real conversation. I don't know where it's going, but for once, I'm okay not knowing. Some nights, I still think about what Jessica said. This alpha acts. Mine only talks. She was right about one thing. The real alpha does act, but not for ego, not for applause. He acts to protect his peace, to cut the rope before it drags him under. He doesn't roar. He doesn't chase. He rebuilds. Quietly. Relentlessly. And when the dust settles, he walks forward. Alone if necessary. Because real strength isn't shown in how hard you hold on. It's in how gracefully you let go. I knew something was off the second I stepped back into our house. My keys were still warm from the release papers, not even 12 hours out of the holding cell. And the smell hit me like a punch to the gut. Cologne. Not mine. Expensive too. Some overconfident brand you wear when you think you own the world or someone else's wife. Her name is Chelsea. Blonde. Sharp jawline. Fake smile. She knew how to twist your emotions like a knife. The kind of woman who doesn't just cheat. She rewrites the whole damn narrative and hands it to the cops. The door creaked as I walked in, still sore from the concrete bench I spent the night on. I'd barely slept. You don't sleep in jail when your last memory is your wife crying crocodile tears to the cops while shouting, "He hit me. He hit me." I never laid a finger on her. But truth doesn't matter when a woman screams loud enough. The neighbors don't ask questions. Neither do the cops. I didn't even get past the hallway when I saw it. A pair of his boots by the stairs. Big, black, mud-stained, and definitely not mine. My blood turned to fire. I moved like a ghost past the kitchen, every nerve in my body screaming. The bedroom door was cracked open, and there he was, in my bed, shirtless, sprawled out like he'd paid the mortgage. And Chelsea? She was sitting on the edge of the bed in my hoodie, smirking, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "You're not supposed to be back till the morning," she said, not a trace of fear in her voice. Guess the system's faster than I thought. I stared at her. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. What do you even say when your wife has you locked up just to warm the bed for her new boy toy? What the hell is going on? I finally croaked. She shrugged like this was just another Wednesday. "You scared me, Mason. I had to protect myself." "You lied," I growled. "You lied to the cops. You lied to everyone." She stood up, pulled the hoodie tighter around her, and crossed her arms. "You raised your voice. You got aggressive. That's enough for them. But I didn't touch you, Chelsea." Her smile widened. "Doesn't matter now, does it?" That's when he got up. Muscles, tattoos, the whole alpha act. Probably named something ridiculous like Blake, and sure enough, that's what she called him. Blake. Of course. He walked toward me slow, like he thought he could intimidate me. "You should leave, man," he said, real calm. "You're not welcome here anymore." I looked at Chelsea, hoping to see something. Remorse, doubt, anything. But she looked right at me and said the line I'll never forget. "He's the man of the house now." The walls felt like they were closing in. Everything I'd built, every night I worked late, every damn sacrifice, she handed it over to some gym rat with a jawline and a pickup truck. But they didn't know what I had. They didn't know I had proof. Hidden in the attic, behind insulation, I had security cameras wired straight to a local cloud. I'd installed them a year ago, after a string of neighborhood break-ins. Chelsea didn't even know. They caught everything. Her fake tears, her call to 911 while smiling, and Blake showing up not even 30 minutes after they dragged me away. I didn't say a word about it. Not yet. Instead, I turned around and walked out. My hands were shaking, but my mind? Clear. Because the war had started, and she threw the first punch. But I was coming back with fire, and I wasn't going to miss. The hardest part wasn't seeing Blake in my bed. It was the way Chelsea looked at me, like I was the intruder in my own damn home, like I didn't belong anymore. I drove away without saying a word, not because I was weak, but because I needed space to think. My hands were still shaking as I gripped the wheel, and my mind kept replaying that moment. Her, wearing my hoodie, telling me he was the man of the house now. Blake, the guy I'd seen once before, in a photo on Chelsea's phone. She said he was just a friend from work. Some ex-Marine turned security consultant. They had lunch sometimes, she claimed. You don't have to worry about him, she said. And I believed her. That was my first mistake. I parked outside a rundown motel just off the freeway. It was the kind of place where no one asked questions and the sheets always smelled like cigarettes. But I wasn't there for comfort. I was there to plan. I opened my laptop and logged into the private server where the security camera footage uploaded every 48 hours. There it was, my golden ticket. For files. Dated. Time-stamped. Crystal clear. I hit play. At 9:13 p.m., Chelsea was pacing the living room on her phone. She wasn't crying. Wasn't scared. She was laughing. She said, "Don't worry, babe. I'll handle it. He'll be out by midnight." Then she hung up. 3 minutes later, she took a deep breath and called 911. Her voice changed instantly. "He's yelling at me," she cried. "I'm scared. He's angry. He pushed me." Lies. Every single word. My stomach turned. The video showed me walking in calmly, placing my keys on the table, asking what she wanted for dinner. That was it. No yelling. No threats. Just normal conversation. And yet, 20 minutes later, I was in handcuffs. By 10:47 p.m., Blake walked through the door. Chelsea greeted him with a kiss, not the kind you give a friend. She jumped into his arms like she'd been starving for weeks. They disappeared upstairs 5 minutes later. It wasn't just betrayal. It was planned. Cold. Calculated. Chelsea didn't just cheat. She erased me. But now I had the evidence. And I wasn't going to play the victim anymore. The next morning, I contacted Eric Monroe, a divorce attorney known for playing dirty. He didn't flinch when I laid out the story. He leaned back in his leather chair, smiled, and said, "Let's burn it all to the ground." We drafted a plan. First step, file for divorce and request a temporary restraining order. Second step, serve her with papers at her workplace, where her image matters most. Third step, expose the security footage if she dares contest the claims. She played with fire, Eric said. Now she gets burned. But I couldn't stop thinking about how far she went. She had me arrested, ruined my reputation, used the law like a weapon just to get me out of the way. And now, Blake was walking around in my house, eating food I paid for, driving the car I gave her for our anniversary, and sleeping in the bed we picked out together. But that was about to change. I wasn't just coming back for revenge. I was coming back to reclaim my name, to remind her who she tried to bury, because she might have won the first round. But the war had just begun. I didn't knock. I wanted her to feel it, the same way I'd felt it when I opened that door and saw Blake where I should have been. When you've been dragged out of your own home in cuffs because your wife wanted a new toy, the last thing you owe her is courtesy. It was Friday. I knew she'd be home. The papers were signed, filed, and approved. All that was left was delivery, and I wanted to do it myself. She opened the door in a robe, hair wet, holding a wine glass, not even pretending to grieve the marriage. She blinked like she was surprised to see me. "Didn't think you had the balls to come back," she said, taking a slow sip. I smiled. "Didn't think you'd be stupid enough to get caught on camera." That wiped the smirk off her face. I reached into my jacket and handed her the envelope. Thick, legal, and heavy with consequences. Her eyes flicked over the front, recognizing the firm's name immediately. "Divorce papers?" she scoffed. "That's cute. You think you can turn this around now?" "Oh, it's already turning," I said, stepping inside uninvited. This time, I came prepared. She backed up a step, but not out of fear. Out of confusion. "You think anyone's going to believe you?" she hissed. "You're the one with the police report. You're the one who got arrested." "Yeah. And now I'm the one with video footage of you laughing before you called the cops. Of you saying, 'He'll be out by midnight.' Of Blake showing up with a duffel bag and walking straight into my room." She went pale. I continued. "You used the system, Chelsea, and it's going to chew you up when it finds out you lied." She didn't even deny it. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. She just rolled her eyes. "God, Mason, grow up. What did you expect? You stopped being exciting a long time ago. You're predictable. Boring. Blake actually makes me feel something." "Yeah? He makes you feel good enough to commit a felony?" She walked over to the kitchen counter and poured more wine. Oh, please. Nobody's going to prosecute me. You think the DA's going to care that a bitter husband got his feelings hurt? I stepped closer. You think this is just about feelings? I lost a night of my life behind bars. I lost my reputation. You had me arrested so your lover could move in without even waiting a damn day. That's not a mistake. That's war. She turned, glass in hand, and smiled like the devil in silk. Well then, General Mason, good luck winning it. Because I've got Blake. I've got the house. And when this is over, I'll have your money too. I didn't flinch. You won't have a dime, I said. Because in 30 minutes, your HR department's going to watch a flash drive. It'll show your lies, your calls, your betrayal. They'll see everything. She blinked. Your company has a strict ethics clause, right? No criminal conduct, no dishonesty. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I stared her down one last time. Enjoy the wine while you can. That robe? I paid for it. That couch? Mine. That man upstairs? He's about to learn you'll do the same to him when he gets boring. I turned to leave. Then I paused. Oh, and Chelsea? What? She snapped. I've got another copy of the footage. Just in case Blake tries anything stupid. I know guys like him. All biceps, no brains. Her voice cracked for the first time. You don't scare me. I smirked. I don't need to. I left the door open behind me. Let her feel the cold for once. By the time I pulled into the office parking lot, my phone was already lighting up. 3 missed calls from Chelsea. 1 from a blocked number, probably Blake, thinking he could growl into the phone and scare me straight. Too late. The match had been struck. Inside the building, Eric Monroe, my lawyer, was waiting, arms crossed, confident as ever. The HR department received the files, he said. Their legal just called us. They're opening an internal investigation. Good. I muttered, not slowing my pace. Make sure they see the part where she laughs right before dialing 911, and the one where Blake walks in like he owns the place. They saw, Eric said with a half smile. They're not happy. I sat down in the conference room, cracked my knuckles, and for the first time in a week, I breathed. Chelsea's perfect little fantasy. It was unraveling. I checked my email. My company had reinstated my access. Apparently, news travels fast, especially when your wife falsely accuses you and your name shows up in a criminal database overnight. HR had pulled me off the schedule, pending investigation. Now that the footage had come to light, they were walking it back. One of the partners even sent a message, glad to see justice catching up. Take your time. Your job's here when you're ready. Meanwhile, Chelsea's Instagram went dark. Blake's profile too. But not before I screen recorded every post. Him shirtless on my patio, her in the car I leased, their smug selfies captioned with lines like, no regrets, and real love doesn't lie. Irony's got a wicked sense of humor. Chelsea's boss called me that afternoon. She sounded nervous, like she was tiptoeing around a live grenade. Mr. Callahan, we've received the evidence you submitted through your attorney. We've also placed Mrs. Callahan on administrative leave until we can conclude our internal review. We take these allegations very seriously. Translation, she's about to get fired, and they want to make sure I don't sue the whole company while I'm at it. Eric leaned in. That's leverage. We don't push too hard yet. Let her feel it. Let her panic. Then we go for the financial throat. Later that night, I sat alone in my motel room, watching the security footage one more time, not because I didn't believe it, but because I needed to feel the rage again. The cold fire that kept me moving. I watched her pace the kitchen barefoot, laugh into the phone, call the cops like it was a game. I watched the officers walk in, look me dead in the eyes, and slap on those cuffs. Then I watched Blake show up. She kissed him before the front door even closed. It wasn't just betrayal. It was annihilation. She wanted me gone. Replaced. Forgotten. But I had a secret left. 2 weeks before everything blew up, I had Chelsea sign a post-nup. She didn't even read it. Just another signature on a pile of real estate papers. That post-nup protected most of my assets, my retirement, even the house if she was caught in adultery or fraudulent behavior. And now I had video proof of both. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. You're gonna regret this. Walk away before it gets worse. B. I smiled. Blake was getting nervous. Good. Let him sweat. Let them both wonder what comes next. Because when you try to ruin a man with lies and lust, you'd better pray he never finds the truth. And I just did. I didn't respond to Blake's message. I wanted him restless. Paranoid. The kind of man who sleeps with one eye open, wondering if the hammer's coming down today or tomorrow. Chelsea always liked her men loud, dumb, and easy to manipulate. Blake was all three. And now, with pressure closing in from all sides, he was starting to crack. By Monday morning, Chelsea's face was off the company's website. No smiling headshot. No title. Nothing. A silent erasure. That afternoon, Eric called with an update. They're terminating her contract. Breach of ethics clause. She's losing her bonus, stock options, the whole damn package. And Blake? I asked. Eric chuckled. That depends on how long he stays employed. You want me to start digging into his background? Not yet, I said. Let's focus on the house. We filed a motion to reclaim ownership of the property under the post-nup clause. The video was attached as evidence. And just for fun, we threw in Blake's overnight bag in the footage as proof she'd moved a partner in without legal separation. The court date was set. Fast track. 2 weeks. Now it was my turn to set the scene. I returned to the house. Not to stay, but to rattle the cage. Chelsea was out, but Blake was home. I rang the bell and waited. He opened the door shirtless, of course. I raised an eyebrow. Do you own anything with sleeves? Or is that part of the uniform? He didn't laugh. His jaw clenched. What do you want? I held up a folded piece of paper. Notice to vacate. You're trespassing on marital property currently under legal review. I'm being generous. You've got 72 hours. Blake snatched the paper from my hand. She said you were weak. Yeah, I said. She also said I'd never find out. Look how that turned out. He stepped forward like he wanted to fight. I didn't flinch, just looked him dead in the eye and said, You ever feel someone watching you, Blake? He froze. Because I've got cameras in this house. Some still running. Some you never found. I've seen a lot. Want to guess how much of it could get you fired from that new job of yours? He didn't speak. I leaned in a little closer. She's not worth it, man. She'll do the same thing to you. It's just a matter of time. Then I walked away, slowly, making sure every step was loud. Heavy. Final. That night, Chelsea called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. She didn't scream or curse. She sounded nervous. You're really going through with this? She asked, voice low. You had me arrested, Chelsea. I panicked. You lied. Silence. Then she said something that almost made me laugh. I didn't think you'd fight back. I let the silence hang. Let her hear her own words echo back at her. You thought I'd just disappear? I finally asked. That I'd crawl into a motel and rot while you played house with a roided-up gym monkey? I thought you loved me enough to let me go. No. You thought I loved you enough to be your victim. She didn't deny it. And that told me everything. The next morning, Eric filed another motion, freezing our joint accounts, flagging large transactions. Chelsea's spending had exploded over the last 3 weeks. Jewelry, hotels, dinners. All traceable. All logged. She thought she was playing chess. But I was flipping the whole board. And now? Now the pieces were hers to pick up, if she could even find them. The thing about people like Chelsea, they don't crack all at once. They crumble slowly, piece by piece, like a porcelain doll dropped on marble. From the outside, she was still pretending. Perfect clothes, perfect smile, pretending Blake was her happy ending. But behind that curtain, the foundation was buckling, and I was the one shaking it. 3 days after I handed Blake the vacate notice, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end? Blake's ex-girlfriend. Her name was Rachel, and apparently, she'd seen the video clips making their way around the office grapevine. Yeah, that video. The one where Chelsea lied to 911, then had a pillow fight with Blake 5 minutes later. Rachel had a few things to say. He did the same thing to me, she said, breathless. Moved in. Took control. Then things got weird. Controlling. Creepy. I didn't say much. Just listened. He's dangerous, Mason. He's not just some pretty boy with abs. I filed a restraining order last year. I can send it to you. And she did. The same day, along with screenshots of threatening texts, voicemails, and, cherry on top, a video of Blake punching a wall during an argument. Eric's eyes lit up when I showed him. Public safety risk, he said. Combined with the footage from your house, we can build a full restraining order request. For you and Chelsea. If he stays, she's complicit. I didn't want to protect her, but I did want leverage. So we filed it. And the next day, Chelsea exploded. She showed up at the motel unannounced. I opened the door, and there she was, in sunglasses and a hoodie, looking like someone who hadn't slept in days. What the hell are you doing? She hissed. Protecting myself, I said calmly. From your mistake. You think I'm scared of him? She snapped. I don't care if you're scared. I care if you're liable. She barged in without permission, pacing like a caged animal. You've turned into someone else, Mason. No, I said. I've turned back into who I used to be. Before you twisted me into your doormat. She glared. We can still fix this. I actually laughed. Fix what? You had me locked up. You moved your side guy into our house. You drained our savings on spa weekends and bottle service. There's nothing to fix. You're really going to throw it all away? You threw it away the second you picked him over me. She stepped closer, voice soft now. Manipulative. What if I said I'd leave him? You think this is about Blake? I asked. Chelsea, you're the problem. Not him. She didn't like that. Her jaw clenched. The act dropped. I'll take you for everything you've got, she snapped. You think you're smart? I'll have the judge eating out of my hand. I pulled my phone out, pressed play. It was her voice, from the security footage. Don't worry, babe. I'll handle it. He'll be out by midnight. She froze. You're not the only one who records things, I said. She turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the mirror on the wall rattled. I stood there in silence, listening to the echo of her footsteps fade. That was the final straw. Not the lie, not the betrayal, not even the false arrest. It was the moment she realized she'd lost her grip on me, and that I never needed her to begin with. She tried to destroy me, but all she did was set me free. Courtrooms are strange places. They smell like old wood, fear, and consequences. The morning of the hearing, I put on my cleanest suit, not to impress anyone, but to remind myself who I was before Chelsea tried to rewrite my life. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't see a broken man. I saw a survivor. The courtroom was cold, sterile. Chelsea walked in like it was a red carpet, heels clicking against the tile, wearing a white blazer like it would wash away her sins. Blake wasn't with her, probably hiding now that we'd filed the restraining order. Eric leaned over and whispered, "She's trying to look innocent." Classic move, but we've got more than enough to shred it. The judge walked in. Gray hair, steel eyes. This wasn't someone you lied to and walked away clean. The hearing started fast. Eric presented the security footage first, the 911 call, the smug kiss, Blake walking into my house like it was his own. The court was silent as it played. Chelsea didn't look at the screen. She stared at the table, hands clenched so tight her knuckles turned white. Then came the bank statements. Eric read each charge like he was listing weapons. $900 at a luxury hotel, $500 at a designer store, $1,200 at a wellness retreat, 2 days after I was arrested. Mr. Callahan was in a jail cell while his wife was at a spa, Eric said flatly. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was strategic, calculated, and abusive. Chelsea's lawyer tried to paint her as a scared woman, overwhelmed, unsure of what to do. Was she also overwhelmed when she laughed during the call? Eric fired back. Or when her lover walked in with a gym bag 10 minutes later? The judge wasn't buying it. You could see it in his face. Then came the postnup. That single document, the one she signed without reading, became the sword that cut through all her lies. Clause 12b, Eric read aloud, states that in the event of infidelity combined with fraud, the violating party forfeits all claims to shared assets. Silence. Chelsea's lawyer stood up, objected, tried to stall. Overruled, the judge said without looking up. Chelsea finally cracked. She stood up suddenly. This is ridiculous. He manipulated me into signing that paper. I didn't know what it meant. The judge looked directly at her for the first time. Mrs. Callahan, you're claiming you signed a legal document without reading it. She froze. He continued, you work in corporate compliance. Your job is reviewing contracts. That shut her down. Completely. Then came the restraining order. Eric presented the file from Rachel, Blake's ex, her messages, photos, the previous case. The judge nodded. Temporary restraining order approved. And just like that, Blake was legally banned from coming within 500 feet of me or Chelsea. The final blow? The judge awarded me temporary exclusive access to the house until the divorce proceedings were finalized. Chelsea tried to speak again, but her lawyer grabbed her arm. She sat back down, shaking with rage. The gavel came down. Court adjourned. I stood up slowly. Chelsea looked at me, eyes burning, lips trembling. She didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. She thought she could break me, but all she did was build a better version of me. Colder, smarter, harder to fool. The courtroom cleared out. I walked past her without looking back. She used to own my world. Now she couldn't even touch it. When it was finally over, I didn't feel victorious. There was no parade, no champagne, just a strange silence, the kind that follows a storm. I walked back into the house the next morning. The keys still fit, but it felt like unlocking a stranger's home. The place smelled like stale perfume and bleach, like someone had tried to scrub the guilt out of the walls. It didn't work. Her wine glass was still on the counter. A pair of her earrings sat beside the sink. The scent of her still clung to the pillow. But she was gone, and I stood in the middle of that silence, finally free. It hit me then. Not the loss, but the realization. I had been living inside a lie. A beautiful, comfortable, emotionally bankrupt lie. Chelsea was never the woman I thought she was. She was a mask, a performance, and I bought a front row seat. But I'm not bitter, because I learned. I learned that trust without proof is a coin toss. That loyalty has to be earned, not demanded. That love, real love, doesn't come with hidden contracts or emotional blackmail. Chelsea thought I'd collapse, that I'd shrink into a shell of myself, begging for crumbs of affection. She underestimated what happens when you back a good man into a corner and take away everything he built with his bare hands. You don't kill him. You awaken something far more dangerous. The weeks that followed were quiet. I cleared the house out. Everything she'd touched, I boxed up or burned. Her favorite mug? Gone. The dress I bought her for our anniversary? Charity bin. That picture of us in Maui, where she was already texting Blake behind my back. Straight into the fire. It felt like surgery. Painful, messy, necessary. The media files went to the divorce court. So did the financials. Chelsea eventually stopped fighting. She knew the judge wasn't on her side anymore. The postnup held. I kept the house, the accounts, even the dog. Not that she asked about him once. Blake disappeared after the restraining order. Rumor had it he got fired from his security job after the footage leaked internally. Apparently, his company didn't love the idea of him shacking up with a married woman after a falsified domestic violence report. Karma doesn't need directions. One night, I got a message from Rachel again, Blake's ex. She just said, "I'm glad you made it out." I responded, "Me too." I started sleeping again. I started lifting heavier at the gym, eating real meals, laughing. Slowly, life returned. I'm not saying I'm healed, but I'm whole. And that's enough for now. So here's what I'd tell any man going through something like this. Trust your instincts. When something feels off, don't ignore it. Your gut doesn't lie. People do. Document everything. Don't be ashamed to protect yourself. That crazy idea to install cameras? It saved my life. Never beg someone to stay. If they want out, let them go. You're not a prison. You're a kingdom. And not everyone deserves the crown. And finally, don't just survive. Rebuild. Take what they tried to destroy and use it to build something stronger, wiser, meaner, if you have to be. Because one day, you'll stand in the ashes of what they burned, and you'll realize you don't need them. You never did. Chelsea taught me that, in the worst way possible. And for that, I'm strangely grateful. I stood alone in the hall after my graduation. All around me were the echoes of laughter, proud mothers fixing their sons' collars, daughters snapping selfies with their dads, and friends drowning in bear hugs and tears. The dean had just handed me my MBA degree, a piece of paper I'd poured 4 years of night shifts, skipped holidays, and missed birthdays into. I thought the day would mean something, but my wife didn't come. Neither did my daughter. No text. No voicemail. No, sorry, honey, we got stuck in traffic. Not even a lazy emoji. Just silence. I waited. I waited until the janitor started folding chairs and the stage lights dimmed. Still nothing. I stood there, diploma in hand, surrounded by families beaming with pride, and I realized I had no one. My phone was cold and quiet in my hand. Maybe they were parking? Maybe she forgot the time? Maybe. Tap. A light touch on my shoulder. I turned. It was Mason, my cousin. He looked uncomfortable, avoided my eyes. "Jake," he said quietly, "there's something you need to see." My pulse skipped. "What is it?" He didn't answer. Just held out his phone. At first, it didn't register. Just shaky video footage, club music in the background, lights flashing. And then I saw her. My wife, Rachel. Wearing the same black dress she said was too classy for some college event, grinding against a man in a red button-up shirt. not just dancing. Locked onto him like they'd been doing that routine for years. His hand slid under her dress. Her head tilted back in laughter, lips brushing his ear. Then, worse, my daughter was there too. At the same damn club. Taking selfies with them. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation, televised in 4K. I handed the phone back, numb. Mason cleared his throat. I didn't know how else to tell you, man. I thought you should find out today. Not tomorrow. Not from someone else. I didn't remember walking out of that hall. I barely remembered breathing. The air outside bit at my lungs like ice. My suit clung to me. The diploma under my arm felt like a brick. I sat in my car and stared at nothing. They didn't come because they were out celebrating with him. And now, the questions poured in like acid. Who the hell was he? How long had it been going on? Why was my daughter okay with it? What kind of mother brings her kid to meet the man she's cheating with on the night of her husband's graduation? The rage didn't come right away. What came first was shame. A slow, burning shame that crawled down the back of my neck and settled in my chest like cement. I was the guy who stayed loyal, who paid bills on time, who cooked dinner on weekends, who helped my daughter with her math homework, who listened to Rachel cry about her job, her mom, her diet, her fake friends. I was her safe zone, her backup plan. And now I was the clown standing alone in a hallway, while she was out playing teenage fantasy with some nightclub reject and dragging our daughter into the circus tent. I drove home with headlights off. I didn't even know why. Maybe I wanted to sneak in, catch her. Maybe I was still hoping it was all fake, that the video was old, or taken out of context, or... The garage was empty. Both cars gone. Inside the house, the lights were on. Wine glasses on the counter. One used. One full. A single heel kick near the hallway like a bad omen. The scent of her perfume, vanilla and sharp regret, still lingered in the air. I walked to her bedroom. Her phone was charging on the nightstand. Unlocked. She always thought I'd never look. Mistake. I opened the messages. There it was. Can't wait to feel you again tonight, Blackheart. He's so boring, LOL. Talking about his degree again, face with rolling eyes. Let's book that Miami trip next week. My daughter's in too. He'll buy it if I say it's a girls' weekend. Face-blowing kiss. I don't remember if I screamed, but something in me cracked. Not snapped, cracked. Like porcelain under a slow, steady hammer. The kind of crack you don't fix. The kind that spreads. I stood there for a long time, staring at those messages, letting them soak into my brain like poison. Every word a bullet. Every emoji a slap. Every lie another nail in a coffin I hadn't even known was being built. Tonight wasn't just the death of a marriage. It was the death of a version of me. The loyal husband. The loving father. The man who believed that hard work and patience paid off. He died the moment I saw that text. What came next wasn't him. It was someone new. And Rachel had no idea what he was capable of. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, lights off, just listening to the ticking of the clock. Every second scraped my nerves raw. At 2:46 a.m., the front door creaked open. Laughter. High heels. Whispering. Rachel's voice. Sure, he's probably sleeping. The door clicked shut behind her. I didn't move. I just listened. Then came the second voice. Deeper. Male. You sure it's cool to stay? She giggled. Of course it is. Jake's harmless. Harmless. She turned on the kitchen light and froze. I was sitting in the chair by the island. Still in my suit. Still holding the glass of untouched wine she'd poured hours ago. Her face paled. His didn't. He looked smug, like he thought he'd just walked into a rom-com finale. Rachel walked ahead of him like a shield. Well, she began, smoothing her hair. Looks like someone couldn't sleep. I didn't answer. I just stared. She exhaled, rolled her eyes. Jake, don't be dramatic. The man, some muscle-bound idiot in a gold chain and leather jacket, walked further in, trying to size me up. You must be Jake, he said. I'm Carson. I looked at him, then looked back at Rachel. That the guy our daughter parties with too? Her face twitched. Don't bring Emily into this. She's an adult. An adult who watched her mother cheat on her father, I said, my voice cold. Rachel crossed her arms. Let's not pretend this is some fairy tale. You've been boring for years. Obsessing over your little degree like it was going to save our marriage. You're emotionally constipated, Jake. And you're stuck in 2012. Carson chuckled behind her. Shut up, I said to him, calmly. Before I stand up. He stopped laughing. Rachel didn't flinch. See? This is what I mean. You think threats make you a man? Carson listens to me. He understands me. I stood slowly. She took a step back. You brought him into our home. You took my daughter to watch you dance on another man in a club. You skipped my graduation. And now you're lecturing me about being stuck in the past. Her eyes narrowed. You always play the victim. You're so damn fragile. I walked over to the counter, grabbed the folder I'd printed out earlier, screenshots, dates, locations. I tossed it on the table. I know everything, I said. The hotel, the fake spa weekend, even the Miami tickets you bought on my card. Rachel's smugness cracked, just a little. Carson spoke up again, too confident for his own good. All right, man, maybe we should just bounce. Rachel ignored him. You went through my phone? You left it unlocked. I went through the lies. You're insane. No, I said quietly. I'm finally awake. I pulled out the envelope I'd had in my briefcase. Handed it to her. She stared at it. What's this? Eviction notice. For both of you. The house is in my name. Has been since we moved in. She ripped it open and scanned it. Her face turned to stone. You can't do this. I looked at Carson. She'll be needing a place to crash. Good luck with that. Rachel's mouth opened, but I cut her off. I froze the joint accounts. Changed all the passwords. You've got 48 hours. After that, the sheriff will escort you out. You're bluffing, she snapped. You can call the lawyer, I replied. But by the time you do, you'll be standing on the lawn. Carson shifted uncomfortably. Yo, maybe we should just go. Rachel turned on him. Are you serious? You said you had my back. Not if you're getting tossed out by your husband at 3 a.m. I don't. She looked back at me. Her mask finally slipped. You bastard. I nodded. Now you're seeing it. They left. No more words. Just the slam of the door. I stood alone again, in the same silence I'd felt in the graduation hall, but this time it was mine. And I wasn't broken. I wasn't numb. I was just done. The man who waited. Who forgave. Who hoped. He didn't live here anymore. The next morning, I woke up to a single notification, one unread message from Emily. Why are you doing this to Mom? She's crying. I'm staying with her at Aunt Lisa's. Don't text me. I stared at the screen, then locked the phone. I wasn't going to chase either of them. Rachel had turned my daughter into a witness to betrayal. She dragged her into the filth and called it freedom. And now, they were playing victim while I was just trying to breathe again in my own damn house. That same afternoon, I changed the locks. Called the bank. Moved everything into a private account. I wasn't letting my life be dictated by liars and backstabbers anymore. By 6 p.m., the silence in the house felt different. Not empty clean. But then the doorbell rang. I didn't even have to check. I knew who it was. When I opened the door, Rachel was standing there with puffy eyes, hair tied back, no makeup, holding Emily's backpack in one hand. Jake, she started softly, I think we should talk. About what? I asked, deadpan. Her voice cracked. We've both made mistakes. I let out a short, cold laugh. List mine. Out loud. She stepped forward like she thought I'd fold. You neglected me emotionally. You stopped being fun. You stopped being the man I married. Right, I nodded. So you faked girls' trips, slept around with a nightclub clown, involved our daughter, and skipped the most important day of my life. Makes sense. You're twisting this. No, Rachel. I'm finally seeing it straight. She tried again. Jake, we have years together. A family. We can fix this. Please. Don't throw it all away over one mistake. One mistake. I said sharply. You think this is about one mistake? You made a lifestyle out of betrayal. Don't minimize it. Her mask started slipping again. I watched the shift, pity to anger. Fine. You want to be the victim? Go ahead, she snapped. But don't expect Emily to choose you. She knows who's been there for her. She does, I said. She just doesn't know who's been lying to her yet. Rachel flinched. She'll figure it out eventually, I added. And when she does, you'll be on your own. Wow, she muttered. You're really just gonna pretend you didn't fail this family too. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I failed. I failed to see who you really were. I failed to protect Emily from your chaos. I failed to walk away the first time I felt you pull away. And then I pointed to the gate. Now leave. Before I start remembering how much I used to love you. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just turned and walked away. But I saw it in the way her shoulders tightened. She thought she'd win. She still thought she could claw her way back. But I was done being her safety net. That night, I started boxing her things. Every photo, every dress, every note she ever left me. I burned them in the fire pit out back. One by one. The last to go was a framed picture from our wedding. I watched the flames melt the glass and crack the frame, and for the first time in weeks, I breathed without weight on my chest. Then I opened a beer, leaned back in my chair, and stared at the stars like they were new. Because maybe they were. Maybe the sky looks different once you've burned everything that tried to bury you. The following week was quiet. Almost too quiet. I kept expecting the chaos to return, calls, yelling, some dramatic confrontation, but there was nothing. Just the occasional shallow text from Emily that read like it had been dictated by her mother. Short, cold, detached. I didn't reply. I wasn't going to argue over text with my own daughter while her mother pulled strings behind the scenes. Rachel always knew how to weaponize silence, and now she was using Emily as a shield. I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. But pain no longer surprised me. What had surprised me was the call I got from my attorney. She tried to put a lien on your business, he said. My heart thumped once. What? She filed paperwork yesterday, claiming partial ownership based on spousal contribution. But your prenup is airtight, Jake. She won't win. I leaned back in my chair, let out a long breath. I should have known. It wasn't about Emily. It was never about family. It was always about control. Rachel wasn't grieving the end of our marriage. She was scrambling for a parachute. She wanted the business, the house, the last bits of identity she didn't build but thought she was owed. That night, I drove to the place where I proposed to her, a little lookout spot just outside the city. It used to be our escape, she called it. I hadn't been there in over 10 years. The bench was still there, half broken, facing the lights of the skyline. I sat there for a long time. I let myself remember it all, her laugh when it was real, our first dance in the living room, the night we found out we were pregnant. I let every memory pass through me without resistance. I didn't fight them off like poison. I felt them, and then I let them go. When I got home, I drafted a letter to Emily. Not a message. A real letter. On paper. No yelling, no guilt, no manipulation. Just truth. I told her I loved her. That no matter what her mother had said, I had never abandoned our family. That I was still here. That love doesn't always come in the form of staying. Sometimes it shows up in the courage to walk away. I didn't mention Rachel's affair. I didn't tell her what her mom had done. She'd learn in her own time. And when she did, she'd have that letter waiting. The next morning, I mailed it. I didn't expect a response. I didn't need one. The point wasn't to win Emily back. It was to let her know that someone had kept it real through the fire, even if that someone had lost everything else. Later that week, I sold the house, packed everything that mattered into a storage unit. The rest I left behind. Rachel tried calling twice after that. Once at 2 a.m. Once after the business sale made headlines. I didn't answer either time. She'd made her choice in stilettos and dim club lights. I was making mine in silence in full daylight. 2 months passed. The divorce papers were served and signed. Rachel didn't even show up to court. She sent a lawyer with cheap perfume and fake lashes who acted like she'd walked into a soap opera. The judge barely looked up. The prenup held, the house sale went through, and the business was mine, untouched, clean. I moved into a small loft downtown. Minimal, quiet. A single bed, a black leather couch. No framed wedding pictures. No floral-scented candles. Just space. Space to breathe. To think. To not hear heels clicking around behind my back or feel eyes judging every decision I made. Then, one morning, I got a knock at the door. I didn't expect visitors. I almost didn't open it. It was Emily. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older, too. Like she'd been carrying someone else's pain on her back for too long. We just stared at each other for a moment. Then she said, I read the letter. I stepped aside. She walked in without asking. She didn't look around. Didn't comment on how empty it was. She just sat on the edge of the couch and looked down at her hands. I didn't know, she whispered. Mom said she said you didn't care anymore. That you had someone else. That you'd already given up on us. I stayed quiet. Let her speak. She told me what to believe. And I just believed her. Because she was crying. Because I didn't want to admit I saw it happening. She looked up at me. Her eyes were wet. I saw the guy, Dad. I saw how she looked at him. I heard them whisper when they thought I was asleep. I knew. I just didn't want to know. I sat down across from her. She wiped her face. I hated you for something you didn't even do. I said things I can't take back. You were lied to, I said. It's not your fault. I still feel like it is. We sat in silence. Then she pulled something from her bag. A small envelope. I don't expect this to fix anything, she said, sliding it across the table. But it's a start. Inside was a photo of me holding her when she was 5 at the zoo. She had ice cream on her chin and both hands wrapped around my neck. On the back, in her handwriting, "You were always the strong one." I just forgot. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. But something inside me finally settled. When she left that night, I didn't feel alone. Not this time. For the first time in months, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. Like the version of me that got shattered in that graduation hall had finally been replaced with someone new. Not colder. Not harder. Just wiser. And free. The next time Rachel tried to contact me, it was through an email. The subject line said, "Can we talk like adults?" I didn't even open it. There wasn't anything left to talk about. No apology would mean anything. Not after the months of silence, the lies, the courtroom games, the fake tears, and the venom she whispered into our daughter's ears. That bridge wasn't burned. It was reduced to ash and blown out to sea. A week later, I saw her by accident. I was at a grocery store, grabbing protein bars and black coffee like I always did. When I turned the corner, and there she was, Rachel, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, pushing a half-empty cart with that same strained fake smile she used when she had no control left. Carson wasn't with her. I almost kept walking. But she noticed me, froze, then slowly made her way over. Each step felt heavy, like she was dragging chains behind her. "Jake," she said, voice low. "Hi." I nodded once. She bit her lip. "You look good." I waited. She kept talking. "Emily told me she came to see you." I didn't know she was planning that. Still, I said nothing. Then she dropped her gaze. I guess she needed the truth. Can't blame her. I raised an eyebrow. "Since when did truth matter to you?" She flinched. "Okay, I deserve that." There was a pause. She tried again. "I messed up. I know I did. I don't even know why I let it go that far. I just felt stuck. I wanted more, but I went about it the wrong way." I let out a short breath. "You didn't want more. You wanted easy. You wanted attention. You wanted someone to tell you what you wanted to hear while I was out building a future." "Maybe," she said quietly. "But I didn't think you'd actually leave. Not like that. Not so cold." I looked at her carefully. "You weren't just unfaithful, Rachel. You were surgical. You built an entire second life and smiled in my face while doing it. Don't stand here and talk about cold." She swallowed. "I think about what I did every night." "Good," I said. "That means you're finally feeling what I carried for years." She didn't have a comeback. Just silence. Eventually, she nodded. "I won't bother you again." I shrugged. "That's up to you. But if you do, don't expect kindness. You already buried that." She walked away after that. Her steps were quicker now. I was facing forward. No more fake smile. Just a ghost in running mascara pushing a cart full of nothing. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of bourbon and no music, no voices, just the hum of the city below. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilt. Different. Sharper. Clearer. They say pain changes you. That's true. But so does survival. So does standing up when everyone bets you'll stay on the ground. And as I stared out at the dark sky and the blinking lights, I realized something simple. I didn't need revenge. I was the revenge. A few months later, I got invited to speak at a leadership conference. One of the panelists had seen my name in a local business feature. Apparently, the way I rebuilt after the divorce, sold the house, held on to the business, and doubled its valuation caught someone's attention. I almost turned it down. But something inside me wanted to be seen for who I was now, not who I used to be when I let people walk over me in silence. The event was held at a downtown hotel. Polished marble floors, people in tailored suits shaking hands over overpriced coffee. I stood in front of 100 young professionals, told my story, not about Rachel or the betrayal, but about rebuilding. About starting over when the foundation you trusted turned to dust. People came up afterward. Some shook my hand. Some quietly said, "I went through something like that too." One man told me his wife ran off with his business partner. Another woman said she hadn't seen her daughter in a year because of her ex-husband's lies. And each time, I looked them in the eye and said, "You're still standing. That's all that matters." That night, I got dinner alone. No rush. No tension. Just me, a medium steak, a glass of red, and a city that no longer felt like a trap. My phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Dad, I told Mom I don't want to stay with her anymore. Can I come live with you?" I stared at the message for a while. And then I smiled. I replied simply, "Yes. Always." She arrived 3 days later with a single suitcase and tired eyes. She didn't say much, just hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm sorry I ever doubted you." "You don't have to be sorry," I said, holding her close. "You're home." Over the next few weeks, we rebuilt slowly. She cooked breakfast sometimes. I helped her with college applications. We argued over who left dishes in the sink. Normal stuff. Real stuff. And one evening, while we were watching a movie, she asked me, "Do you still think about Mom?" I didn't hesitate. "Sometimes, but not in the way I used to. Now, it's just a chapter that taught me who I am." She nodded. "I get that." Then she added, almost like an afterthought, "You know she still talks about you. Like she didn't lose something real." I gave a faint smile. "Of course she does. That's what happens when someone throws away gold because they thought glitter was enough." And in that moment, I knew I'd made it. Not just out of the storm, but beyond it. Stronger, wiser, and finally free from the lies that once defined my life. The only sound in the boardroom was the echo of high heels and entitlement. Madison strutted in like a peacock dipped in gold, her sister Kayla trailing right behind her, giggling like they were walking into a fashion show and not a business they helped destroy. Both had deep tans, fresh lashes, and that smug post-vacation glow that only comes when you're celebrating your lover's birthday in a penthouse in Dubai, while your husband is lowering his father's casket into the ground with trembling hands. I stood behind the one-way glass in the hallway, watching as they tugged at the locked glass doors of the executive suite. Confusion twisted their surgically arched brows. They kept scanning their key cards. Nothing. Madison pressed the buzzer with growing impatience. Finally, the guard, my guard, stepped forward. He didn't yell, didn't scold, just looked at them with the kind of quiet pity that stings harder than insults. "You no longer exist here," he said flatly. Madison's jaw dropped. Kayla laughed nervously. "What the F*** does that mean?" He repeated it without blinking. "Your access is revoked. Mr. Bishop owns this company now." She whirled around. "My father transferred everything. Day before he died, the guard cut in. By legal proxy." I could almost feel the temperature drop in that room. Madison staggered back like someone had just punched her in the gut. Kayla grabbed her wrist, whispering something I couldn't hear. But I didn't need to. I knew what was coming. Madison, my wife of 7 years, turned her gaze to the glass, not knowing I was behind it. And for a second, I saw a flicker of fear. Not guilt, not shame. Fear. She knew I knew. It wasn't just the trip. Wasn't just the text she sent me while I was burying my father. "Can't make it. Would be awkward. Say hi to everyone." No, it was the silence before it. The weeks of detachment. The fake headaches. The girls' nights that ended with smeared lipstick and hotel perfume. I didn't want to believe it at first. God, I didn't. You don't want to think your wife, the woman you helped build an empire with, would torch it all for a yacht boy in Dubai with abs and bottle service. But she did. And now, she was locked out of everything. Her emails, accounts, shares wiped. Legally. Cleanly. Her father may have loved her, but he respected me. He saw the decay behind her veneers and saw me for what I was. Loyal. Blinded, yes. But loyal. When they stormed out past the lobby, Madison finally saw me. She froze. I didn't speak. She walked up, her heels clicking like gunshots across marble. "You planned this." Her voice was low, dangerous, the kind of tone people use when they realize they're no longer in control. "No," I said. "Your father did." She flinched. That one hit deep. "You smug piece of—" "Save it," I said, stepping past her. "Go back to your birthday boy. Or did he already move on to the next trophy?" Her face cracked. Kayla tugged her arm, already panicking about the fallout. But Madison stayed rooted, glaring at me with a mix of hatred and panic. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "It already was," I said. "The moment you texted me from a luxury suite while I shoveled dirt onto my father's grave." She didn't follow me out. She didn't scream or throw a fit. She just stood there, alone, realizing too late that the man she thought would always be her fallback was gone. She lost everything that day, but that was only the beginning. Tomorrow, she'd open the front door and find the locks changed. And inside, a man with nothing left to lose. Madison came home 2 days later like nothing happened. She didn't call, didn't text, just walked through the door with a smug little smile and shopping bags swinging from her wrist, some from Louis Vuitton, some I didn't even recognize. She smelled like Dubai nightlife. Money, perfume, champagne, and men who don't ask names. She didn't notice the cameras were off. She didn't notice the dog wasn't there. She didn't notice her framed wedding photo missing from the hallway. What she noticed was the suitcase by the stairs. She paused, one heel still on the bottom step. What's this? I didn't look up from the couch. Yours. Her laugh was light and fake. Oh, come on. You're still mad. Still mad? Still mad? I stood slowly, letting the weight of the silence hit her first. You weren't there. I told you. While I was standing over my father's grave, you were popping champagne in a bikini and clapping for your boyfriend's birthday toast. Her jaw flexed, lips parting like she had something sharp to say, but even she knew better than to speak just yet. I got the photos, Madison, I continued. Your sister's a moron. Didn't realize her Insta stories were public. I saw you kiss him. I saw the bed behind you. I saw the necklace I bought you, dangling off a wrist that wasn't mine. She rolled her eyes. Are we seriously doing this? She tossed her bag on the couch like she owned the place. Like I was being dramatic. We didn't do anything serious, she said, pulling out her sunglasses. It was just fun. I stepped forward. Fun. It wasn't real. It was just a trip. I needed a break. You were always so moody with your dad being sick and all. I didn't want to be around that energy. My hands clenched. So you flew halfway across the world to celebrate another man's birthday? She didn't flinch. He made me feel alive. You haven't done that in years. I should have yelled. I should have thrown something. But I just looked at her, long and cold. You lied to my face, Madison. No, she said, crossing her arms. I spared you. I laughed then. Not because it was funny. Because it was insane. You spared me? While you were riding camels and riding your lover, I was holding my mother's hand as she cried over her husband of 42 years. I gave the eulogy. I carried his casket. You were busy in a hot tub. She shifted uncomfortably, but she still wouldn't say sorry. Not once. That company you thought was yours. I said, your dad handed it to me. Every asset. Every signature. He made it all legal the day before he died. He knew who you were. He just didn't want to see it until the end. Madison blinked. He wouldn't do that. He loved me. He pitied you. Big difference. Her voice cracked for the first time. Where am I supposed to go? I stepped aside and pointed to the door. Wherever your lover is. Maybe he's got a spare yacht. You think you're going to come out of this clean? She snapped. You think this is the end? I'll ruin you. I smiled. You already tried. But you did it with your mouth full. That one landed. She grabbed the suitcase and slammed the door behind her. And for the first time in a year, the house was quiet. Dead quiet. I stood there for a long time, just breathing. No yelling. No crying. Just the strange stillness of knowing it's over. Not like the kind of ending you see in movies. No slow fade out. No emotional music. Just the bitter, empty click of a door locking behind someone who thought you'd never walk away. She left behind 3 things. A perfume bottle, a red thong under the bed, and a marriage that had already been a corpse for years. I didn't need a lawyer. I already had one. And Madison? She'd soon realize that when you bet your soul on a side piece, you'd better hope he can afford the fallout. Because I'm not just grieving my father anymore. I'm burying my wife's lies. One nail at a time. The morning after she left, the house felt like a crime scene. Every corner echoing with things she'd said, things she did, and the things I should have seen sooner. Her makeup still stained the edge of the mirror. Half of her closet was empty. The half with the designer stuff, of course. But she left her wedding dress. Hung it back on its original hanger like it was some kind of joke, facing outward, as if to say, you really thought this meant something? I stared at that dress for a long time. It felt like it was watching me. But I didn't burn it. I didn't cut it up. I vacuum sealed the damn thing and sent it to her new address, the one I pulled from her sister's rental car agreement. I added a note. Return to sender, no longer fits. A week went by, then 2. Madison didn't reach out, not even to apologize. But Kayla did. She called me from a blocked number, crying so hard it took me a minute to even understand what she was saying. She's spiraling, Dean, Kayla sobbed. He dumped her. Good. She's talking crazy. She's drinking all day, maxed out her cards. She said you ruined her legacy. I almost laughed. What legacy? Her Instagram followers. She said she's going to go public. Post everything. Let her. Kayla paused. Even the hotel videos? I froze. What videos? She said she'd upload them if you didn't take her back. She's desperate. My hands curled around the edge of the table. She filmed it. She didn't know at first. Her lover did. Some kind of revenge kink, I don't know. He was twisted. Look, I shouldn't be telling you this. You already did. Dean, please. She's still my sister. Yeah? And I was your brother-in-law. Didn't stop her from whispering happy birthday, baby to another man while I was lowering my father into the ground. Click. I blocked the number. But something about that call didn't sit right. Not the crying. Not the desperation. The timing. That night, I checked my email. There it was. No subject line. Just a link. I didn't click it. Not right away. I stared at it for 10 minutes, wondering if this was her endgame. If the woman who once vowed to stand by me through sickness and health was now dangling blackmail over my inbox like bait on a hook. I clicked. A hotel room. She didn't know the camera was rolling at first. The angle was wrong, like it had been set up long before she walked in. I saw her fix her hair, laughing, kissing whoever was behind the camera. He never showed his face, just his hands, and a voice. I recognized it. It wasn't just some rich boy. It was Jason, my former friend, my business partner, the man who once stood beside me at my wedding, patting my back while Madison walked down the aisle. He was the one filming her. That was the moment my stomach turned to concrete. He knew everything. My father's illness, my hours at the hospital, the silence between my wife and me. He had front row seats to my collapse, and instead of throwing me a rope, he threw her a room key. I closed the laptop. Didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep the next either. I wasn't angry. I was done. Anger burns hot. It explodes, screams, destroys. But this was cold, heavy, precise. I didn't want revenge. I wanted erasure. So I started planning, not with fire or fists, but with silence. Jason had secrets, too. Business secrets, hidden accounts, fake contracts. And Madison? She didn't know I kept her wedding ring. I had it appraised, sold it, used the cash to fund the first stage of what would become the slow dismantling of both of them, in a way no one would ever trace back to me. Because when they took everything I loved and lit it on fire, they thought I'd break. But all they did was teach me how to build something better. Without them, I started with Jason. Not loud, not messy, just smart. There were contracts he forged back when we were partners, trying to inflate numbers for a round of funding that never came. I still had the drafts, still had the emails. He'd forgotten all about them, but I hadn't. I sent them, anonymously, of course, to the right people. 2 regulatory agencies, 1 former investor, and his new girlfriend, who just happened to be a paralegal. 3 days later, Jason went offline. His company's website redirected to an error page. His Instagram wiped clean. No more stories. No more fake, private jet flexes. He disappeared like smoke. I knew what was happening. The feds probably hadn't called yet, but the silence meant he'd seen the writing on the wall. And if he didn't yet? Oh, he would. Next was Madison. I didn't go after her money. I went after her mirrors. She loved being looked at, more than she loved being loved. She needed validation like most people need oxygen. So I gave her the opposite. I reported every fake follower she ever bought. Every bot account. Every fake-like farm. It took 72 hours for her engagement rate to tank and the brands to start pulling out. Suddenly, her emails were filled with restructuring agreements, and we've decided to pivot. Her manager dropped her. Her sister unfollowed her. Then I made one more move, the one that stung the most. I sent her a package. No note. No return address. Just a printed screenshot from her lover's hidden video, framed in silver. Her looking up at him, eyes wild, lips parted, one hand on his chest. The timestamp circled in red. Taped to the back was a post-it, smile for the camera. You're not the only one who can play games. She went ballistic. Showed up outside my house 3 nights in a row, screaming like a lunatic. One time she threw her phone at my door. Another time, she tried to break in, sobbing and begging me to talk. Said it wasn't what it looked like. That she was used. That Jason manipulated her. I didn't open the door. Not once. She came a 4th time, quieter this time. Sat on the steps in one of my old hoodies like she belonged. I watched her from the upstairs window, coffee in hand. She looked tired. Not the Instagram kind of tired. The real kind. Her nails weren't done. Her hair in a lazy knot. She stared at her shoes like they were about to tell her how she ended up here. I loved you, she whispered to the wind, not knowing I could hear. I really did. But love doesn't leave during funerals. Love doesn't lie for months. K your friend, and gaslight you while you mourn your father. Love doesn't come wrapped in red lace and ride betrayal like a roller coaster in the dark. I turned off the porch light. Let her sit in the dark with her choices. Eventually, she left. I didn't see her again for weeks. Then I got the call. Not from her. From her lawyer. Apparently, she wanted to discuss terms for a peaceful closure. Said she was ready to accept responsibility and move on. I agreed to a meeting. We didn't meet at her lawyer's office. We met at a cafe. Public. Neutral. Safe. She wore sunglasses the whole time. Barely touched her drink. Spoke like a PR rep trying to clean up an oil spill. I know I hurt you, she said. But we were both unhappy. And I think, in the long run, this was for the best. For you? I said. Not for me. Her jaw tightened. You're not perfect either. I leaned in. But I was loyal. And that used to mean something. She didn't respond. I slid a folder across the table. Inside, a document stating she waived all claims to the business, the house, and everything else her name had once been on. She glanced at it. You really want to erase me? You already erased yourself. I stood. She didn't chase me. She didn't cry. She just sat there, motionless, as I walked out. That was the last time I saw her. I heard she moved to LA. Eventually rebranded herself as some empowerment coach. Posts quotes about healing and forgiveness now. Block me online. But I don't care. Because I'm not healing. I'm rebuilding. And there's a difference. Some mornings, I wake up before the sun and just sit there, watching the light crawl across the ceiling like it's trying to apologize for how dark things got. The house feels different now. Not because anything major changed, but because it's mine. Fully. Quiet. Clean. Honest. And empty in a way I've come to appreciate. I've learned to enjoy silence again. Not the kind that screams at you with what's missing, but the kind that lets you breathe. Think. Reclaim yourself. It took a long time for that. After Madison, I didn't jump into anything. No rebound dates. No revenge flings. No therapy journals or deep talks over whiskey with strangers. I just existed. Walked the dog. Fixed the squeaky stair. Canceled every streaming service we shared. Started reading books again. Not the kind she recommended to look smart, but the ones I actually liked. But the ghosts stayed. Especially Jason's. You don't forget betrayal from a friend. Not easily. Not when that friend was the one who introduced you to your wife in the first place. Not when you once called him brother, toasted to each other's futures, helped him cover his rent before his first investor check came in. I found myself rewatching old videos, birthdays, company parties, that dumb fishing trip where Jason fell in the lake and Madison laughed so hard she cried. I didn't feel sad watching them. I felt stupid. I should have seen the way she looked at him. How her smile stretched wider when he spoke. How she touched her hair around him more than anyone else. The little things you only notice when it's too late. And then, something changed. I got a call from a blocked number. A man's voice. Nervous. Rushed. You don't know me, but I knew Jason. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for what he did. He bragged about it. Like it was a game. I thought you should know. Why now? I asked. Because he's dead. I didn't respond. He got drunk, drove off the PCH. They said it was an accident. I don't think it was. The line went dead. I didn't call back. I just sat there with the weight of that. Jason was gone. The man who cracked my life open with a camera and a whisper. And all I felt was nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just a strange emptiness. Like I'd been chasing a ghost for so long, and now the ghost was gone, and I was just standing there, holding a story with no final chapter. A week later, I drove out to the coast. Not to see the spot. Not to lay flowers. Just to feel the wind. I parked near the cliffs and sat on the hood of my car, staring at the water. The waves didn't care about betrayal. About lies. About who loved who. They just kept moving, crashing, pulling back, coming again. It was oddly comforting. Madison called that night. Block number again. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Her voice was small. Like smoke. I heard about Jason. Yeah. I didn't know who else to call. I didn't say anything. Do you ever think, maybe none of this would have happened if we were just honest with each other? Do you want me to lie to you now, Madison? Would that make you feel better? She laughed, but it cracked halfway through. I lost everything. No, I said. You threw it away. There's a difference. She didn't reply. Goodbye, Madison. She didn't fight it this time. Just silence. Then the line went dead. That was it. No dramatics. No final scream. Just a soft, exhausted goodbye between two people who once meant everything and now meant absolutely nothing. And somehow, that was the real closure. No apologies. No revenge. The strange thing about moving on is how uneventful it feels once it starts to happen. There's no fanfare. No trumpet sound. No confetti moment where your heart says, okay, we're good now. One day, you just stop checking their socials. Stop rehearsing what you should have said. Stop waking up angry. You look in the mirror and don't see the man she left. You see the man who stayed. Through everything. The one who didn't quit. The one who didn't lie. The one who didn't run. I didn't forgive her. I didn't need to. Forgiveness implies she still holds a place inside me, like there's something to repair. There's nothing. Just a memory that's been archived, dusted off now, and then only to remind me of what I will never allow again. I remember standing in our old kitchen the day I changed the locks, looking at the note she once left taped to the fridge. Love you. Always. Even when I'm late, 2 hearts. I didn't rip it up. I burned it. Watched the paper curl, darken, crumble to flakes. It felt better than therapy. People asked questions for a while. Friends, former colleagues, even a few reporters who wanted a statement about the executive shakeup after Madison was forced out. I said nothing. Let the silence speak for itself. Let her come up with whatever narrative she needed to feel like a victim. I didn't care. The truth was mine, and I didn't need to loan it out. I started working again, not just showing up, but actually working, building, innovating. I hired new people, people with integrity. We made deals. We launched a new division. People started calling me the comeback story of the year. But it wasn't a comeback. It was a resurrection. I met someone eventually. Her name was Rachel. Quiet. No flashy smile. No fake eyelashes or rehearsed charm. She laughed at my jokes like they caught her off guard. And when she talked, she looked you in the eye, not around the room for someone more interesting. I didn't trust her at first. Not completely. But she never asked me to. She just stayed. One night we sat on my porch, wine glasses between us, the dog sleeping at our feet. She asked about Madison, not with gossip, just curiosity. What was she like? I thought for a second. Beautiful. Sharp. Selfish. Addicted to attention. I think she liked the idea of being in love more than the reality of it. Rachel nodded. And you? I was desperate to be enough for someone who never was. We didn't talk about her again. Didn't need to. The past belongs to itself now. It doesn't get to shape me anymore. But if I could speak to the man I was back then, the version of me standing by a coffin, reading a message from a woman who had no intention of coming home, I'd tell him this. It's not your fault. You loved hard. You believed in someone who couldn't even believe in herself. You gave everything. And they mistook your loyalty for weakness. Let them. Because what they didn't know was that you were learning. That the fire they lit under you wouldn't burn you down. It would forge you into something stronger. So if you ever find yourself staring at a suitcase by the stairs, wondering how it got this far, remember this. Some people aren't meant to be forgiven. They're meant to be left behind. Forever. A few months after that final phone call from Madison, I saw her by accident. I was at a gallery opening downtown, something I wouldn't usually go to, but Rachel had a piece up, and I wanted to support her. I was sipping wine, actually enjoying myself, when I noticed a hush ripple across the room. That familiar shift in energy when someone walks in wearing desperation disguised as confidence. And there she was. Madison. Hair longer now. Darker too. Probably to look more serious. Same exaggerated walk. Same need to be seen. But it didn't hit me the way I thought it would. No racing pulse. No sudden anger. Just observation. She scanned the room like a heat-seeking missile until her eyes found me. Froze. Then narrowed, like she wasn't sure if it was real. I held her gaze for a moment, then turned back to Rachel, leaned in, and asked her about the brush strokes on her painting like nothing else in the world existed. That was the real ending. Not the arguments. Not the silence. Not even the moment she packed her bags. The real ending was the moment she became just another person in a room. She left not long after. Rachel noticed. Friend of yours? I smiled. Just someone I used to know. That night, lying next to Rachel, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. Not in regret. Not in pain. But in reflection. Madison taught me everything I never want again. She showed me how dangerous it is to fall in love with a mask. How some people will pretend to be your forever, when they're really just passing through, collecting attention and leaving damage in their wake. And Jason? He reminded me of the kind of man I'll never be. The kind who chooses betrayal because it's easier than growth. The kind who calls disloyalty freedom. I buried them both, in different ways. One in memory, the other in headlines. But both of them now only exist in the rear view. I've stopped asking why. Why she did it. Why he did it. Why I didn't see it coming. None of it matters anymore. What matters is this: I survived. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Not by pretending it didn't hurt, but by walking straight through the fire and coming out on the other side, still standing. And if you're reading this, if you're the one left holding a shattered promise in an empty bed, if you're wondering how you'll breathe through another night without answers, you will. Not all wounds need to be healed to stop bleeding. Some just need time, truth, and the decision to never let them define you. So no, I don't miss her. Not even a little. What I miss is the version of me that thought love alone was enough. But he's gone now. And the man who replaced him? He doesn't chase what's already walking away. He builds. He grows. And he never forgets that peace, above all, is worth protecting. Even if it means saying goodbye without ever hearing, "I'm sorry." It's a strange thing, rebuilding your life after someone tried to burn it down. You don't wake up one day with everything suddenly fixed. It's slower, more deliberate, like learning how to breathe through scar tissue. There are days when the memories hit. Quiet moments when I'll remember her laugh echoing down the hallway, or the way she used to hum when cooking. And for a flicker, it feels like a life that belonged to someone else. Like watching a home video from a house that no longer stands. But I don't dwell, because what came after her is real. The peace, the silence that doesn't scream, the love that doesn't beg for validation or compete with lies. Rachel and I bought a cabin upstate. No social media posts, no flashy rings, no performances. Just weekends in the woods, dogs at our feet, a fire crackling as we read books and exist like two people who know exactly what it means to lose, and even more, what it means to choose each other anyway. Sometimes, when the leaves fall just right, I think about what Madison might be doing, whether she ever learned, or just moved on to the next stage, next follower, next fix. But I don't wonder too long, because wondering is what kept me stuck. And now, I live, I love, and I trust again, not blindly, not foolishly, but with eyes wide open and heart guarded by experience, not bitterness. If you're reading this, if you've been betrayed, left behind, made to feel small by someone who promised to hold you up, hear me. You are not what they did. You are what you do after. And your story doesn't end at heartbreak. Mine didn't. It started there, but it didn't end. It began again, the moment I realized I was never the broken one. I was just giving my best to someone who didn't deserve it. And now I give it to someone who does. Myself. And the ones who love me back the way love was always meant to be. Loyal. Quiet. True.